Philadelphia news, team of my heart.
You ever get that gut punch feeling right before things are supposed to go your way? That last-minute curveball that ruins the clean slate you were banking on? That's exactly what just happened to your Philadelphia 76ers. And yeah, this hits deep. Right as free agency is knocking on the door, a decision was made, expected, maybe. But it still leaves you staring at the Sixers cap sheet like it's a dead-end alley. What if I told you there's a way out? What if I told you someone you thought was part of the solution might actually be the reason the front office is scrambling? But here's the twist. This might be exactly what the Sixers need to flip their off-season plans. From frustration to flexibility. Now I want you to lock in. Because the move that just happened, it's setting the tone for everything else this summer. It's the kind of decision that seems small on paper, but carries heavy weight behind the scenes. You might have cheered for this guy last season, maybe even bought his jersey. Or maybe you were one of the many who watched with your arms folded, whispering he's not it. Either way, his name's on the books now, and the check is real. $8.4 million real. And you feel that, don't you? Because while teams like the Thunder or the Magic can throw cash around like confetti, your Sixers, you're counting every dollar. Every penny spent now could be the difference between snagging that crucial wing defender or watching him sign with Boston. And you know how that feels. Let me ask you something. How long are you willing to wait for potential to show up? When production is what you need. You've watched this player bring energy, sure. He's never lacked hustle. He's a blur in transition, a slasher who plays like every possession is his last. But it's the flaws, man. The inconsistency, the tunnel vision, the shaky fit next to Embiid and Maxey. And in today's league, where spacing, efficiency, and defense dictate who plays in May and who watches from home, you know the answer. As well as I do. This ain't gonna cut it. And here's where the pain cuts a little deeper. Because while this guy might not be what you need, he just tied the Sixers' hands tighter behind their backs. Cap space, gone. Options, limited. Flexibility, out the window. All because he hit accept on that player option. And you can't even blame him. Would you walk away from that kind of money? When your role next season is unclear? Of course not. But now you have to live with it. Now you're the one wondering if that next big signing is still possible. But, and this is where it gets interesting. What if I told you this isn't the end? What if this whole thing could actually work for the Sixers instead of against them? See, there's a move on the table. It's not flashy, and it's not guaranteed. But it's real. A trade. Not just to unload a name. A trade that clears space, rebalances the roster, and gives you a shot at keeping to guys who should be in Philly next season. You want to re-sign Quentin Grimes? You want to keep Guerschon Yabusele's energy in the Wells Fargo Center? Then this is the move. But it starts with understanding the real value behind that expiring $8.4 million deal. Now think about it. Expiring contracts are gold in today's league. Teams want flexibility. They want to shed long-term deals, and that means you could become the beneficiary if the Sixers are bold enough. Package him with another piece. Maybe even throw in Drummond's $5 million. Suddenly, you've got a $13 million chip on the table, and G-Miz across the league start listening. That's how you turn stuck into strategic. That's how you pivot. That's how you build a contending roster without losing Maxey's new co-star or Joel's patience. But the question is, will they pull the trigger? Will Nick Nurse and the front office move proactively? Or will they sit still and hope things magically line up in free agency? That's where you come in. You, the fan who's been through the process, the heartbreak, the rebuild, and the heartbreak. Again, you know how this city works. You know what this team needs, and deep down, you know, this isn't just about one player picking up a contract. This is about how the Sixers respond. So here's your challenge. Drop a comment right now if you think you've already figured out who we're talking about. Don't wait till the end. Tell me the moment you recognize the name behind the news. Because if you really know Sixers news like you say you do, it shouldn't take long. And trust me, the next part of this is going to get even juicier. You've been watching this team long enough to know that every summer starts with a dream, a clean slate, a vision of new faces in red, white, and blue, a plan to fix the flaws that showed up when it mattered most. But now, because of one tiny click of a contract option, it's like you've been shoved 3 steps back before the sprint even started. And that's got to sting. Because you deserve a roster built to win now, not one weighed down by deadweight or one-way contributors. You're not here for mediocrity. You're here because you believe this team can still fight for the East, but only if the front office is smart enough to act before it's too late. Let's talk real. You know how tight the Sixers' finances are. You've seen the numbers. Maxey's massive extension just kicked in. Paul George's money, no joke. And Joel Embiid, he's not taking discounts to wait around for a rebuild. If you want to compete, really compete, then every contract on the books has to serve a purpose. Every dollar spent has to bring value on both ends of the floor. And you tell me, does this guy still do that for your Sixers? Now here's where things heat up. You've got young guys knocking on the door. Quentin Grimes, who could be the exact 3 and D weapon this team has missed for years, and Guerschon Yabusele, a guy who plays with the kind of physicality this city lives for. The problem? You don't have enough cap space to keep both unless you start clearing the deck. And that's where this becomes more than just an $8.4 million contract. It becomes a roadblock to keeping the very players who could reshape this rotation and finally give Nick Nurse the versatility he needs. You might be asking, isn't there a way to keep everybody? Not really. Not unless the Sixers pull the trigger on a trade. And you know what? It's not just about this player. It's about stacking the pieces. Think about what happens when you combine this guy's expiring deal with Andre Drummond's. Now you've got a mid-sized package, over $13 million, ready to be moved. Add in a second-round pick or 2. That's ammo. That's leverage. That's how you go from stuck to strategic. That's how you grab a piece that actually fits next to Embiid, George, and Maxey. Imagine a more consistent shooter, a defensive specialist, a rotation player who doesn't hesitate, doesn't disappear when the lights get bright. That's what this trade could unlock. And the beauty of it? It gives you flexibility this year without sacrificing long-term goals. No bloated salaries, no wasted roster spots, just smart, calculated moves, the kind championship teams make. But here's the painful truth. If the Sixers don't move, this guy now, you're likely stuck watching him absorb minutes that could go to someone more efficient, more impactful, and simply better suited to this new core. And maybe you're okay with that. Maybe you liked what you saw in flashes last year. But you can't afford flashes anymore. You need reliability. You need chemistry. You need role players who know their role. This is no longer the phase where the Sixers can carry fringe pieces hoping they pan out. That window, gone. Still, here's something wild to consider. This player could actually be useful, just not here in another system with different expectations and a roster that fits his strengths better. He could thrive. His rim pressure, his transition speed, his streaky scoring. That could make sense for a team like the Hornets or even the Rockets looking for an energy guy to boost their second unit. That's what gives his contract value. And that's exactly why the Sixers can't let him just sit on the bench or soak up minutes without direction. Let me ask you this. If you were Daryl Morey right now, what would you do? Would you hold out, hope that he surprises you? Or would you flip the script and find a trade partner while the leverage is still in your hands? Be honest. Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you've read this far, I know you care. So type truth in all caps down below. That's how I'll know you stayed locked until now. Still not sure who the player is, Well, the time has come. The name behind all this off-season noise. The one who just hit accept on an $8.40 million player option, tightening the Sixers' cap flexibility right before free agency. It's Kelly Oubre Jr. Now you feel it, right? And listen, if you want to keep getting the truth about this team, if you're tired of sugar-coated headlines and want real Sixers news, smart trade talk, and deep breakdowns of the decisions shaping this franchise, then do yourself a favor. Subscribe to the channel and hit that bell, because this summer, it's just getting started. And I promise, the next move could change everything.